I know you've been provided some background information that you're probably just now getting to read, but I will try to keep this brief as it relates to the actual incident itself. Shortly after 7 o'clock this morning, members of the St. Petersburg Police Department, the U.S. Marshal Service, and the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office went to a residence at 28th Avenue South at 3734 to try and talk with a female resident there on the whereabouts of a relative. The individual they were concerned about was Hydra Lacey Jr., a black male, date of birth 9/19/71. He was wanted on an outstanding warrant for aggravated battery. I know many of you have his criminal history. There was a significant violent criminal history in his past. So we were trying to get him off the street. When they got there and confronted the female and started talking to her, she indicated to us that Mr. Lacey was upstairs in the attic, possibly armed with a gun. Other members of the St. Petersburg Police Department responded, to include Sergeant Thomas Batinger and K-9 Officer Jeffrey Yaslowitz. Officer Yaslowitz actually had just finished his shift and was headed home when he volunteered to go back by and assist at this call for assistance from his fellow officers. Once they got there, it's my understanding, and all this information I'm giving you right now about the incident itself is preliminary. It's what we know at this particular point, or what we believe is to occur. Officer Yaslowitz and one of the U.S. Marshals attempted to go up into the attic to get the guy to surrender. As they entered the attic, both were shot at. Officer Yaslowitz remained wounded inside the attic. The Marshal was pulled down, and why Sergeant Batinger was inside, it appears that the suspect, and we can't confirm his identity at this particular point because we're not 100% sure, and we believe it to be Mr. Lacey based upon all our information, but a positive ID has not quite been made yet. We will try to get that done this afternoon. But also shot down at Sergeant Batinger, who was holding potentially a ballistic shield, or at least had a vest on, and it appears that the rounds may have gone down from an upward angle into him. Both officers, initially Sergeant Batinger was transported to Bayfront Medical Center, where he was pronounced a little later this morning. Officer Yaslowitz, we didn't know his condition. He was still in the house at the time. As soon as we could muster enough folks to safely go back in, we did. We went and conducted an officer rescue with our tactical and apprehension, or SWAT team, if you will. They got Officer Yaslowitz out of the attic. While they were doing this, they were being fired upon, and eventually got him down, where he was transported to Bayfront Medical Center and also later pronounced deceased. We continued to work on the house until a body was removed several hours later. We believe the body to be that of Hydra Lacey. Like I said, positive IDs to come. Sergeant Batinger was 48 years old. He was hired in 1996. He served in several capacities here. I would exemplify, I say he had an exemplary career. He served as a detective, an officer, a sergeant, and all in various units. I met with his wife, Paige, at the hospital. Obviously, she's very emotional at this point. And we're continuing to support the family the best that we can. Officer Yaslowitz, who's 39 years old, started in the department in 1999. So obviously, he's about 11 or 12-year veteran of the department. He also excelled in his duties as a police officer and got to a specialized unit, that being our K-9 unit, which he dearly loved to do. He is survived by his wife, Lorraine, and their 3 children, boys 5 and 12, and a young girl, age 8. I guess what I want folks to know is that when you put on a badge, and I'm holding things in my hand that belong to the officers that were handed to me by various officers at the scene. A badge, a ring, a wedding ring, 2 bracelets that were on one of the officers' arms, and I kind of got these at the scene as people were handing them to me. And I'm having a hard time letting go of them. These gentlemen I have known for their entire career, since they've been with the police department. and I consider them friends, and I'm going to miss them. I'm going to miss them. It's a very hard day for the police department. It's a very hard day for this community. I do appreciate the outpouring of support we've received from our community. As I pulled up, and it's been a very hectic day, through the breezeway in the main police department, there's been flowers, there's been cards, there's been well wishes, and every part of our community is pitching in. I guess I also want to tell you that our community's safe, but when I look at this and people ask questions about procedures or how the officers conducted, and there'll be a day and time for that to come. And we'll look back and we'll learn the best we can. But in my mind as a police officer, and I'm this crook, this criminal, this murderer, cop killer, whatever you would like to call him, did a terrible injustice to two of my people today, and two of the people that serve this community. I feel a lot of anger. I feel remorse for the family. But I think it's going to take some days of healing before we get through all this. I've had outpouring of support from other Bay Area and across the state, and actually the governor's office and others, and mayors and police chiefs and sheriffs from around the state have called to support, and I appreciate that. The sheriff and I up in Ellis County talked. Jim Coates and I talked a little earlier today. One of his folks was in this scene getting shot at as well. So it's a sobering reminder of all the dangers that officers face all the time. And but we just appreciate the outpouring of love and support that we've got. The other people I want to talk about just briefly would be the officers who went into the officer rescue, not knowing their fellow officers' state at that particular point, decided to risk their own lives and go in and conduct this rescue, being fired upon. And as a chief, and I've heard gunshots before, but I would probably say that I heard 150 to 200 gunshots during that exchange. You cringe, because you hope you don't send another officer into a situation like that where there's another death. I'm going to turn it over to the mayor now for some comments, and I'll probably come back up and ask some questions, and Pete, I think, will talk at the end. But if you have any specific questions related to this, we're going to do what we can as an agency, as a city, as city staff to support the families. That's what we're going to do right now. I just want to know from the media to the community that everybody's appreciation and support. We really do appreciate that. The officers, the men and women who were involved in this have been brought into the station. We'll do a debriefing with them at this particular point, because as I was headed in, I'm still hearing auto accidents goes out, calls for service go out, and they're remaining professional on the job, continue to do a great job. So I'm so proud of the men and women who work here, and although this is the worst day that you can imagine, they're still out there doing their job and serving their community. So.